Hello and welcome back to another reading of this amazing book. I have been away for a little while. Well, not away, just not recording for the last week or so. I've just been really, I'm going to link a video at the end about the energies that we're experiencing right now. If you're watching this in October, these are the energies that we're experiencing, although these energies are going to continue. It is a theme, so no matter when you're watching this, you may be experiencing these energies. They've been quite intense. I've been really having to ground and nurture myself and just spend a lot more time in nature, in meditation, just really allowing myself a lot of rest time. So I've not really felt inspired to come on, so apologies if you've been waiting for this next chapter, but here it comes. So let's just take a moment. Let's just take a moment to call in our angelic guides and helpers, calling in our highest self. Calling in all of the elementals, all of the dragon spirits, all of the nature spirits, all of the animal spirits that are with us, all of the water spirits, just all of the spirits that are with us right now. And there are many. You might be feeling as well in these times that, you know, our teams, our spirit teams, which are made up of so many different types of spirits, right? We've got the tree spirits, the nature spirits, the water spirits. We've got the animal spirits. We've got the dragons. We've got the unicorns. We've got the fae, the fairies. You know, we've got our highest aspects of self, the angels, the archangels. There are just so many, our ancestors, you know, there are just so, we have the galactics. There are so many souls that are part of our spirit team, our soul family. And right now they are, you know, they've always been with us, right? But as we're starting to awaken more and more, we can start to perceive and feel them more. As we start to consciously connect to them, as we start to have conversations with them, speak to them, just like the best friends, you know, as you start to invite them into your life, then you're going to start to feel the support even more. And they're really around right now as we're going through this massive ascension as a species, but also planetary and cosmically. You know, we are all going through this together, so they're really here very powerfully at this time, and we can really call upon them for assistance each day. You know, each day I start my day by, you know, calling in my highest self. I call in my angelic guides and helpers, my spirit team, my ancestors, all of the guides that are working for the light, the true undistorted light, all of the guides that are part of the mission of anchoring heaven on earth. I call in my guides every day and I let them know that I welcome them in to assist me in any way that is in the highest good of myself and creation, any way that they can help to create a day for me that is filled with grease, not with grease, guys, with ease and grace. Look, I'm making a word there, pulling those together. With ease and grace. You know, I ask them to go out ahead of my day and pave that day for me. And so we've really got to ask, we've really got to give them permission to come in and support us. Like, you know, they can't do everything for us, of course, you know, that is our job, but they can really guide us. They can really help harmonize the energies around us. They can really give us a lot of signs, a lot of messages. They can help, that they can, you know, our higher selves are us. So our higher selves is orchestrating meetings, things like that for us to then take those opportunities, right? So that part of us that we can't see, it's so powerful, and if we don't invite it in and we don't work with it, then we literally, it's like we've handicapped ourselves. It's like we've cut off most of our limbs, right? We're making life difficult. You know, a lot of people suffer in this life because they're not aware of the spirit teams. They don't work with them, they don't invite them in, and they're trying to do everything on their own. So okay, obviously that needed to come through today. I felt really called to just share that then. So it's just a reminder to do that and bring it into your day, you know, every day, even when you're not going through challenges, but you know, every day to start doing, to make that something that you do consistently. You're going to start to feel it, and you're going to start to feel supported, and you're going to start to see the interaction with your spirit team on a even deeper level. So let's see what today has in store for us. Okay, so we're on chapter 18. which breaks down to a 9, which encompasses all numbers. So I feel like this is going to be quite a powerful chapter today, and there's going to be a lot of messages in here for those that are watching this. So the title is "In Him Was Life, and the life was the light of men," and that's an extract from the Gospel of John. Upon my request, Anastasia took me to see the ringing cedar, which her grandfather and great-grandfather had talked about. It was not very far from the glade. The tree, approximately 40 metres tall, rose slightly higher than its neighbours, but its principal distinguishing feature was the aureole radiating from its glistening crown, similar to the halos around the faces of saints depicted on icons, right? So it's saying that you could see this aurora around this cedar tree, and as he states here, you can look in many biblical artwork, and we see this halo around biblical figures. That halo represents our crown chakra. We all have this, and it's just a case of doing our healing work and opening that up. So, and as we open up that crown chakra, we start to receive messages more clearly from our divine higher selves, from our spirit teams. We're basically opening up our channel to receive all that stuff that's in the unseen to come in and help us on the physical, which was always the plan. Similar to the halos around the faces of saints depicted on icons, the aureola was not even, it pulsated, and at its upper tip one could see a thin ray of light beaming into the infinity of the heavens. The spectacle was dazzling and absolutely charming. At Anastasia's suggestion, I pressed the palms of my hands to its trunk. I could hear a ringing or crackling noise, comparable to what one might hear standing under a high voltage transmission line, only more resonant. It was I who happened to discover a way to send its energy back into space and then have it distributed here on Earth, Anastasia told me. You see how its bark has been torn off in various places. That is where the bear was climbing it. It was quite a challenge to get her to carry me up to the first branches. I clung on to the fur on her neck. She would climb and then let out a roar, climb and roar. After reaching the lowest branches, I was able to clamber up from branch to branch right to the top. I sat there for 2 days and thought of everything I could to save the tree. I stroked the tree and shouted up into the sky, but nothing helped. Then grandfather and great-grandfather arrived. You can imagine the scene. They were standing down below, reprimanding me and demanding that I climb down. I, in turn, demanded that they tell me what could be done with the tree, how to save the ringing cedar since nobody was cutting it down. They would not tell me, but I felt that they knew the answer. Grandfather, old trickster that he is, tried to lure me down, promising to help me establish a connection with a certain woman I had been unable to reach on my own. This was a woman I very much wanted to help. Earlier, grandfather would only be annoyed by my desire to spend so much time on her instead of doing other things. But I knew that he could not help me, as great-grandfather had twice tried to do this behind grandfather's back, and he failed too. At that point, grandfather really began putting up a fuss. He seized hold of a branch, ran around the cedar tree and beat the air with the branch, shouting that I was the most harebrained member of the family, that I was acting illogically, that I refused to accept sound advice, and that he would give my bottom a good whipping. And again he beat the air with the branch. Now that was a real humdinger of a threat, and even great-grandfather burst out laughing. I too gave a hearty laughter. In doing so, I inadvertently broke a branch at the top, and a glow began emanating from it. I heard great-grandfather's voice, serious, command and entreating all at the same time. Do not touch anything more, little one. Come down very carefully. You have already done enough. I obeyed and climbed down. Great-grandfather silently embraced me, trembling all over. He pointed at the tree in which more and more branches were beginning to glow. Then a ray formed, pointing upward. Now the ringing cedar would not burn up. Through its little ray, it would give everything it had saved up for the past 500 years to people and to the earth. Hold on. I don't want my coffee to go cold. Great-grandfather explained that the ray had formed in the exact spot where I had shouted upwards and had inadvertently broken a branch while I was laughing. Great-grandfather said that he had touched the ray emanating from the broken branch. Great-grandfather said if I had touched the ray that emanated from the broken branch, my brain would have exploded as there was too much energy and information in this little ray. That was exactly how my papa and mama had perished. Anastasia put her hands on the mighty trunk of the ringing cedar she had saved and pressed her cheek against it. After pausing for a while, she continued her story. They, my papa and mama, came once upon a ringing cedar just like this one. Only mama had been doing everything a little differently since she did not know. She had climbed up into a neighbouring tree from which she reached out and touched one of the low branches of the ringing cedar and broke it off, inadvertently exposing herself to the ray which flamed up out of the broken branch. The branch had been pointing downward and the ray went down into the earth. It is very bad, very harmful when such energy falls onto the earth. When Papa came, he saw this ray and saw my mama, who had been left hanging, one hand still firmly grasping the ordinary cedar branch. In the other hand, she held the broken branch of the ringing cedar. Papa, no doubt, had an immediate grasp of everything that had happened. He climbed up the ringing cedar right to the top. Grandfather and great-grandfather saw him break off the upper branches, but they did not glow, while more and more of the lower ones began glowing. Great-grandfather said that Papa realised that it would not be long before he would never be able to climb down. Wow, what a scary thought. The upward beaming ray with its pulsating glow failed to appear. All that was going on was more and more thin rays shining downward. An upward ray did appear when Papa broke off a large branch, pointing up, and even though it was not glowing, he bent it and pointed it at himself. When it did flame up, Papa still managed to unclasp his hands. The branch straightened and the ray from the branch directed itself up towards the sky, and then the pulsating aerial formed. Great-grandfather said that at the last moment of his life, Papa's brain was able to take in an enormous flood of energy and information, and that he was able in some incredible way to clear his mind of all previously accumulated information, and so was able to gain the time required to unclasp his hands and direct the branch upwards just before his brain exploded. Anastasia once more stroked the cedar trunk with her hands, once more pressed her cheek against it and stood stock still, smiling, listening to the ringing of the cedar. Anastasia, that cedar nut oil are its healing properties, stronger or weaker than the pieces of the ringing cedar, the same, provided the nuts are gathered at the proper time and with the proper attitudes towards the cedar, provided the tree bestows them of itself. Do you know how to do that? Yes, I do. Will you tell me? All right, I shall tell you. The need to change one's outlook on the world. I asked Anastasia about the woman over whom she had disagreement with her grandfather. I asked her why she had been unable to establish a connection with her and why she thought this contract was necessary. You see, Anastasia began her story, it's very important when two people join their lives together that they have a spiritual attraction to each other. Unfortunately, as a rule, everything starts with the carnal, right? Because there's all of that programming out there, and we've talked about this already, that's out there to lead us away from our own divinity, to make us think that it's equality for us just to have all these one-night stands and things like this, rather than, we're not taught about forming a loving relationship. In fact, it's pretty sick, some of the stuff that they're actually trying to teach our children as sex education. It's perverted and sick, and what should be central to it is that when two people come together, it should be through a loving bond, and that the body is absolutely sacred, and when we join our bodies together, we're going into a sacred union with somebody, and if we don't do it through those means, then we're creating trauma for each other. For example, you see a beautiful girl and desire to possess her. You still have not seen the individual, the man or her soul. Very often people, and again, they brainwash us as teenagers to believe that, they make guys feel that if they've not had sex with like, you know, loads of people, then there's something wrong with them. You know, watching Friends. I used to love Friends, but there's so much programming in Friends, which, you know, when it's filled with loads of laughter, people don't realise the programming. But, you know, think about Joey, who is the main character. Joey is a man that is always having sex, right? And they're actually, you know, you've got Ross and stuff. You know, I watched something the other day where Ross is like, I haven't had sex for 6 months. And they're like, whoa, Ross, there's something wrong with you, you know, painting these pictures like there's something wrong with that, when there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There is something wrong with having sex for just having sex with people because we feel like we have to, because we have sex, right? So it's all there making boys think that that's what makes you a man, to just have loads of one night stands. And, you know, so we've been programmed from a young age, and then it's been reflected back to us, all over Hollywood, all over the TV screens. In fact, my friend told me to watch a Marvel movie recently. I couldn't watch it. It was sick. I had to turn it off. Deadpool. It was absolutely sick. The perverted scenes within it and the violence, but the perverted scenes, it was sick. And I can see it, you know, it's getting more and more perverted throughout our Hollywood films and things like that. I mean, that is going to change because people are waking up to this sickness that is being poured out to our children, our teenagers. But I couldn't even watch it. It was so sick. I was like, wow. Very often people join their destinies together only on the basis of carnal attraction. Either that quickly passes or it's transferred to someone else. What then keeps people together? To find a kindred spirit with whom one can attain true happiness is not all complicated. Your technocratic world, however, puts up massive interference. Exactly. The woman I am trying to teach lives in a large city and regularly travels to the same place each day, probably to her work. Earlier, either there or on the way, she finds or meets up with a man who is very close to her spirit, one with whom she could be really happy, and most importantly, one with whom she could bear a child capable of bringing so much good into the world, because they would co-create this child with the same impulsion as we did. But there is no way this man can bring himself to tell this woman that he loves her, and she herself is partly to blame for this. Just think, he looks into her face and sees, as it were, his heart's desire, the apple of his eye, while she, as soon as she feels someone gaze upon her, perks up right away and unwittingly tries to lift her skirt higher, and so on. This man is at once carnally aroused, but he does not know her well, and so he then goes to someone he is better acquainted with, someone he feels is more accessible, but still led on by these same carnal desires. I want to suggest to this woman what she should do, but I cannot break through to her. Her brain will not open to the awareness of new information, even for a second. Is constantly preoccupied with issues of day-to-day living. Can you imagine? And actually that's maybe tying into some at the beginning. Like, I don't know how I feel about this, about, you know, we have free will, right? But our spirit teams, our own spirit teams that are there to guide us, you know, our soul created this life, created a destined plan. So we do want to be listening to our higher guidance. You know, we want to be able to open up our channel and be able to discern what is coming from our higher self, what is coming from our guides that are there to help us step onto our destined plan. It is those messages that we want to be hearing, because it is us, right? Our higher self is us that created this avatar, this body, to be in and seeded part of its consciousness within it, knowing there would be a time when it could start to seed more and more of its consciousness, because the point of being in a human form, having this avatar, is that this soul self comes in and lives a soul-filled life, and that's what we've been programmed away from, that soul-filled life, into this technocratic life where our consciousness is being stolen, siphoned, basically. So we need to be able to discern ourselves, and when we are living lives where we are just surviving, right, we are just working like slaves, and when we're not working like slaves, we're just exhausted in front of the TV. If we are living those kind of lives, we are, you know, we're often in stress, anxiety. We're not really open to receive our guidance. We really have to give ourselves the time and the space to really be able to relax our nervous systems, really be able to connect to nature, really do things that bring joy into our life. Joy is such a powerful channel opener, and as we do that, then we can receive those messages, we can hear the message. Otherwise, as she's kind of saying, Anastasia's saying here, we block them because our brain is too busy and the messages can't get in, or we can't hear them, we can't perceive them. Her brain will not open to the awareness of new information. Even for a second, it is constantly preoccupied with issues of day-to-day living. Can you imagine? One time I followed her for a whole 24 hours. What a terrible sight. Grandfather then got upset with me for not working enough with the Dachnics and for spreading myself too thin and sticking my nose in where it does not belong. When this woman wakes in the morning, her first thought is not to delight in the coming day, but how to prepare something to eat. She gets upset over some missing food item and then gets upset over something you smear on your face in the morning, like face cream or rouge. She spends her whole time thinking how she's going to get it. She's always late and is constantly on the run, trying not to miss first one form of transport and then the next. At her regular destination, her brain is overloaded with, how shall I put it, all sorts of nonsense, at least from my point of view. On the one hand, it is supposed to give her face a business-like expression and fulfill the job task she is assigned. All this while she is thinking about one of her girlfriends or acquaintances and getting angry at them. Yet at the same time, she is listening to everything going on around her. And can you imagine the same routine is repeated day after day like clockwork? It's Groundhog Day, right? And we've all experienced that. I know I have. This is what the system does. It programs us into that slave in prison mindset where we think we are making choices for ourselves. On her way home, when people notice her, she can put on the appearance of an almost happy woman, but she is constantly thinking about problems or her makeup or looking at clothes in shop windows, above all clothes that will expose her alluring charms, supposing that this will result in some kind of miracle, except in her case, everything happens the wrong way around. She gets home and starts house cleaning. She thinks she is relaxing when she watches her television and prepares her meals, but the main thing is she thinks about good things only for a split second. Even when she goes to bed, she's still mulling over her daily cares and stays in the same mental rut. If only she could turn away from her thoughts even just for a moment during the day and think of, wait, Anastasia, explain specifically how you see her, her outward appearance and clothing, and tell me what she should be thinking about at the moment when this man is with her. What should she do to make him at least attempt to tell her he loves her? Anastasia explained everything in a minute detail. I shall only mention here what I consider to be the most important points. Her dress should come to just below the knee. See, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with some of this stuff, in fairness, but I'm not saying I'm not saying, you know, there's a program out there to get women to show themselves. Like, that is empowering. That is not empowering at all. That is just creating women as these kind of sex objects. You know, we can't blame men for having these carnal desires about women. This is men and women both have been programmed here to create negative interactions between both sexes, to create this like interference and stuff. But I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to wear a skirt below your knee, but anyway, it should be green and a white collar and no cleavage. She should wear hardly any makeup. And I have to say about makeup though, I used to most women wear makeup. Why? Because we don't feel good enough. It's literally that. We're programmed from very young age, and makeup's huge for teenagers, and most females are wearing it, and we don't feel good about our skin and things like that, because our skins probably aren't as good as they should be because of all the toxins, because of all the negativity that we grow up in. But, it's a camouflage, right? It hides us. And I remember, I wouldn't go anywhere in my 20s without wearing makeup. I would not be seen. I would never be at work without makeup. I would never go out without makeup. I would never do anything without makeup. As I've really started to work on my own healing and done so much healing about how I feel. Well, you'll see now I'm not wearing any makeup. Most of my videos that you'll watch, I don't wear makeup. I used to straighten my hair. I used to wear makeup. I used to do all this rigmarole in the morning, and I don't do that now. It's not that, I think this year I've probably worn makeup twice. It's not that I'm against wearing it at all, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't wear it at all. It's the fact that we feel that we have to wear it in order to be accepted, in order to feel pretty enough or good enough. So when you start to get to a point where, so it's a conditioning, and I actually started to notice the more that I didn't wear it, the more my skin started to glow, the more that I actually, I started to feel good enough without actually. To be honest with you, I prefer myself without makeup now, and it's literally like it's just not needed. I totally prefer myself without it now, but it's been a transition and it's been a healing inside myself in order to be able to do that. So it really is a mask for us as females to hide, because we just don't feel good enough. For most, I'm not saying all, I mean, some just enjoy wearing it, and that is totally fine, and they can wear it and they can not wear it, and they don't have to wear it, they just enjoy wearing it, and that is totally fine. But I do think that I notice that a lot of people, well, they like the no makeup, right? Okay. She should wear hardly any makeup and listen with interest to the person talking to her, and that's it, I remarked upon hearing such a simple explanation, to which Anastasia remarked, there is so much underlying these simple elements. In order for her to choose that particular dress, change her makeup and look at that person with genuine interest, she will have to change her whole outlook on the world. Right, I'm going to leave it there for this one. And hopefully you enjoyed that, and you received the messages that you needed to receive in that, and I will see you on the next one.